Today's video is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be explaining what lures and what techniques to catch mangrove snapper. Into going down there the last maybe 2.5 years, we've really been throwing a lot of lures, and this last trip I threw almost nothing but lures. But this first picture is some flukes and paddle tails that I use. You can buy the Bass Assassin stuff, the Zoom stuff. All of that works fine, but the issue is these mangroves with their teeth, they just shred those things. I definitely found the lure at the top there is made by DOA. It's a smaller paddle tail there. You could even buy a fish, even a little bigger one. Anything from 2.5 to 4.5 inch works just fine. But they last a lot longer. You can get quite a few bites on those before they're shredded. Those are definitely dynamite, especially anywhere near structure. If you can fish them, just got to get to the bottom. That's the main thing there. If it's not on the bottom, at least bouncing the bottom, you're just not going to get much on them. I'll show kind of the technique later on in the video, but those are definitely go-to lures. Anything that has some silver flakes seems to be a little better, but white is fine, pearl is fine. I like the white with a clear bottom. Silver, that's not on that picture, but the white with a silver flake clear, half and half, was a really good lure on this trip. Next is the jig heads there. Those are ranging anywhere from 1/8 ounce to 1 ounce. Again, I would use the lowest weight jig to get to the bottom. That's kind of a common sense thing that everybody knows. But the other thing I'm trying to show in this picture, jigs that I use, is definitely strong hooks. You're fishing the ocean, you have no idea what's going to bite. You don't know when a 15 to 18 inch mangrove is going to bite, and if you're near structure, they're going to try to pull you in, and the only way to turn that fish is with a big heavy hook instead of having it bend it straight. So you can't just use regular freshwater jigs or something. You need something with a heavy duty hook, no matter the weight. The other thing about those jigs, I like to use a bigger hook. Definitely noticed, especially the last year of going down fishing Florida, is that, the bigger the hook, you get a lot of bites on these things when the fish are aggressive. And it just seems like I'm not hooking nearly as many 7 to 9 inch fish that you would if you had a smaller jig and a smaller lure on there. So bigger hooks is definitely a definite must there, because like I said, you get a bunch of bites, but you won't hook them. Of course, you're still going to get some small fish, obviously, but this pushes you a lot more into catching keepers. The next picture there is we got voodoo shrimp, DOA, in various sizes and colors. But anything in the red wine type color, clear was good but not great, and then those tiger color was definitely a really good color too. And I like to fish a little bit bigger ones than what that first voodoo is down there at the bottom. But I like to fish, I think it's a 3 3/4 and up size. Again, same thing. I find that you get a ton of bites on these things, and the bigger ones will hook on the bigger lures and the smaller ones won't. So again, you're still going to catch some smaller fish, but it weeds out quite a few of them. And I just noticed that a lot of times you get a big fish when a bunch of little ones are snapping at it, can't hook, and then a bigger one will flash out there and hit it. So that's kind of, the lures that you're fishing sort of slower, bouncing off the bottom. Again, I'll show some of the technique later in the video. And then the last ones are, crankbaits and Rapalas, stick baits. I definitely think that the X-Wrap is a great lure. Really enjoy throwing that. But I will say that for sure for me, the Ozuris, when it comes to saltwater, are definitely turning into my go-to lure. I trolled that some this trip and caught all kinds of stuff trolling it. And then I threw it at some mangroves, and it did really well for that too. So I would lean more towards the Ozuris. Again, anywhere from a 3 to 4.5 inch. Seems like as soon as you get over that 4.5 inch, the mangroves won't hit it. Now, a lot of other stuff will, but just seems like even the big ones just don't want to hit that bigger lure. Also, the one thing I'll say about throwing these is that you're just anywhere southern Florida, you're so prone to getting cut off. So these are definitely, they work. The other thing about them, because they have smaller treble hooks, you're going to catch a bunch of smaller fish, because everything pecking at it's going to hook. So I've caught big fish on them for sure, but they're definitely, that's the two downfalls of throwing these. So I don't throw this stuff quite as often as I used to for mangroves. So anyway, we'll get to the video and I'll do a little voiceover for some of the sections. It's all the same, 4 to 6 feet. First cast. Pretty dirty water, actually. Very cloudy. That might not be a bad thing, we'll see. Caught quite a few fish throwing Rapalas here before. So I'm trying a little paddle tail thing here. We'll see. Already getting bites. I just got cleaned already. Oh, this is a lure type spot, buddy. This is a lure spot. Man, they are hammering it. Oh my gosh, there's millions of snappers. Woo-hoo-hoo, here we go, boys. What? There's millions of snappers. Yes. Fish on. This one might keep. That's a keeper. Number one. Yep, that's a keep. Let's measure him up, make sure. 11-incher. Yep. One down. Fish on every cast. I just got caught. Got cooted. I'll get out of your way. I'm gonna go retie. I got cooted. Little small. I'll try a voodoo. So in this spot here, the current is actually running under my kayak and into the openings in the bridge here and through. I would normally say that most fish prefer the bait to be thrown up ahead of them and drifted into their faces in current. One of the other fish that likes a spinner or something thrown and pulled into the current the wrong way is a rainbow trout, which is really a strange thing because all the other trout prefer to be coming downstream. Rainbows will hit it that way too, but they'll definitely hit it chasing it up the current. But I've definitely noticed with the lures, this 3 or 4 times on these smaller bridges, when the current is coming the way that it is that you see in this frame, they like to hit it harder coming up current, chasing it. I don't know if that's just because they have a little more time to come after it and it's not just flying right by them. Like maybe they won't chase out of the structure going the opposite way of current, because they basically fly away from the structure. Not like you won't catch some that way, but definitely noticed with the mangroves I was doing way better fishing kind of the opposite way you would expect, especially around small structure like this and mangroves and stuff. I have not really tried this in a deeper open channel, kind of fishing the wrong direction because I'm usually, trying to catch muttons and stuff like that there. But definitely would say, especially on this day, that it worked really well. And I actually remember it working pretty well several other times. So kind of an opposite thing there that I would think to try, but really worked really well this day. So this is paddle tail fishing. You can see by the video how fast I'm fishing it. When current's really moving, I kind of adjust accordingly to current. If the current's ripping, you can kind of fish that thing, put a heavier weight on, make sure it's getting to the bottom, and you can fish it a little faster. As the current slows, I kind of adjust to a little lower weight on the jig head, and I fish it a little slower. So when the current's really ripping, the fish are at their most aggressive, from what I've found, especially mangroves. And also, it's just easier to trick them. They have to kind of come flying out to try to hit something going by quickly, and that's what they're used to doing because the current's moving fast, so they're used to a fast bait. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with them is, that's your best time to catch them is when you're in by structure and current's ripping. The fish have to be aggressive to hit whatever comes by to get a meal. So I think lures are at their best with that. I mean, the other obvious thing with these lures that I have not mentioned is, you can see by the video I'm covering so much ground in a kayak, throwing lures. I mean, you're fishing 4 times faster than you would if you threw a piece of bait in there. And you're fishing a lot faster than you probably would be even with a boat. So the kayak and the lures together just really helps you cover some ground. So of course, covering ground, you're gonna find aggressive fish because you're throwing in a new spot. I'm usually, whenever I'm working through a bridge system like this, I'm throwing 1 to 2 casts in each hole and just blowing by it, throwing 1 to 2 casts, and I'll just keep going back and forth on bridges like this. And with lures, it's about the only way to really trick fish consistently because, of course, they figure it out after a couple. So anyway, I'll let the clips roll here so you can kind of see what we ended up getting that day. But that's a big portion of what I do here. The Rapalas, I fish every direction when I'm throwing those into the current, out of the current, with the current going sideways in the current. They kind of seem to hit those all over the place. But the lures, like I said, I'll sound like a beating a dead horse here. The plastics, you've got to get to the bottom. If you're just dragging that thing 3 inches below the surface or only letting it get 6 inches down, in these areas something will hit it. But especially the bigger ones, they really don't want to come far out of their wherever it is that they're hiding. I've watched it tons of time in clear water, even fishing the mangroves with bait. You'll throw a cast and it'll set up 2 feet or 18 inches away from the mangroves. You can see your bait down there, and little ones will come out and peck at it, but you just can't get a big one to come out. But you throw it where it's literally right on the edge of where the undercut is, and you'll get a much bigger fish. So it holds true with the lures. You can get a big one to come out a little farther with the lure, again, because they have to be aggressive, but you're definitely going to catch your bigger fish by constantly throwing it as close to structure and ledges as you can. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video, and we'll just let the clips roll. Oh, jeez. Jeez. Oh my. Jeez. Maybe 15. I'm gonna say 14. Woo! Woo! That's my biggest one yet today. 14 3/4. What? 14 3/4. What do we have left to catch then? Little one. Went on there a second ago. It might even been a grouper the way it was doing stuff. Or even a tarpon maybe. Fish on, little one. No, not a little one. Nice. Another good fish. Nice fish. Oh boy, about to die. That's a really nice one. Check him out. 11 inch. Oh boy. Get out, get out. That's a big one. Nice. About 11. If he stays in the kayak. Number 6. Another 11-inch fish. Yeah! Woo! Nice one. Let's measure him up. Let's say he's 13. He is 13 and a half. That is more like it.
Hello, you've reached John Draper. Please leave your name and number. I'll be happy to get back to you.
One last thing I'd like to say is about my line. I use nothing but fluorocarbon, especially whenever you're fishing shallow water. I just use straight fluoro instead of tying on leaders all day. I like to use the Yozuri 16 pound, especially fishing lures. 12 pound gives you a little more action on the lures, but it just isn't quite strong enough when you hook the right fish. You can see here that I break off this fish right here. This was using a 12-pound test, and as soon as I broke that fish off, I switched to 16, which was obviously too late then. But 12, can work really well. The fish just don't. These mangroves don't like hitting any heavier line. I mean, when I try 20, I catch less than half the fish. They see that line. So 16 seems to be about the limit for catching mangroves inshore like this consistently. They just like I said, they just refuse to hit it when you go too heavy a line. But you're always going to break off fish. That's part of fishing. This fish ran into one of the openings of the bridge. Kind of thought I had him stopped and was going to get him, and he took off. Saw my kayak coming in, took off and ran into the next hole. So this was probably a really big snapper.
Just standing up in this little teeny trough here in the flats. So cool. Threw one cast and smashed another probably 12. Yeah, I'm saying 12 inch. I'll measure him up in a second, but my goodness, was that cool. He is 12.5 inch. That will make a limit for us today. That closed up since I don't need to get back in there, but that was cool. I'm gonna try to see if I can turn the GoPro around. See if I can get any footage when I get closer to that. Brian just threw in there. Brian's got him. That seems like a decent one. That's okay. Oh, it was a keeper for sure. That was a good fish.
And I got my shrimp back.
Nice.
That was actually a good fish.
That was a good fish. Let's shoot. Let's just watch Brian for a minute. His extreme skills. What a cool find this was. Isn't it?
Yes.
Let's see if the, oh my gosh, I can see some just sitting there.
What a cast.
Did you have a good cast?
Yep, got one on.
Brian's on. Scoot back a little bit.
Right there.
That's probably a 10-incher again.
Easily a 10-incher.
Oh, that's so fun. I gotta admit, look what I'm trying to use. Nice job, Brian.